Hello and welcome to another episode of Weird Ass History with Becca. I'm your host, Becca, obviously. This episode is about Palisade, Nevada. I really liked learning about this one. I wish there was more history and more of like descriptive stories that I could find, but there's not. But it's okay, because it's still interesting. So Palisade, Nevada is located in northern Eureka County in northeastern Nevada. It's 10 miles south of Carlin and 27 miles south of Elko. It was built in 1868 as a station on the Transcontinental Central Pacific Railroad en route from Chicago to San Francisco. It later became the Southern Pacific Railroad. After 1909, the Western Pacific Railroad also ran this route. It's also known as Palisade Canyon or 12-Mile Canyon or 10-Mile Canyon. It was settled along the Humboldt River, and it was named for a sheer rock to the east, the Palisade, which was named after a similar formation on the Hudson River in New York. The town was fairly small, but it was fairly established. It also had lodges from the Oddfellows and the Masons that were constructed, and in 1874, the town became the headquarters for the railroad. By 1878, more than 31 million pounds of base bullion had been shipped by that railroad. By 1882, the town settled to a consistent population of approximately 250. It was an active mining town from 1881 to 1917, and they mined Onondaga and Zinoli silver. The Eureka mines began to decline after 1885, and Palisade began to die. It was also aided by floods in 1910, which destroyed much of the town. In the early 1870s, the townspeople, and this is why I thought it was interesting, the townspeople would stage robberies and gunfights to bring in tourists. Train riders had no idea that they were fake, and Palisade actually had a low crime rate, and they didn't need a sheriff. It was considered by some historians to be the first theme park. It set foundations for how theme parks portrayed the West in the future. Staging these robberies met needs for both the bored townspeople and the people on the train to be, if you want to call it, entertained. The weekly Elko Independent described Palisade as unusually dull, but still, those who are in business don't growl, they simply pray for better times. It was also known as the toughest town west of Chicago, and they did almost daily stage fights. And on occasion, they would pay Native Americans to take part. They would be paid to be bound hand and foot to the rails, surrounded by Palisade citizens armed with immense revolvers, long rifles, and bowie knives. The guns were packed with blanks, and no passengers seemed to notice that the victims were quickly carried over to Johnson's Saloon, where they miraculously recovered and could watch the last act. No one was ever hurt in these staged robberies, and no lives were ever lost. The townsfolk used real blood from the slaughterhouse to make it look as real as they could, and now the town is nothing more than a ghost town. The owner of the town, whose last name is Sexton, sold Palisade at auction in 2005 to an anonymous buyer. He received about $150,000, and he did it to send his daughter to college. He said that he was basically sorry for it, but she needed to go to college, and that selling Palisade would cover at least 3 years. I know that this episode was really short, and I apologize. My next topic is the Clampers, who I was raised with my entire life. They're a historical society. I have so many stories that I could connect them with just in my area. And my grandfather was actually the humbug for like 15 or 20 years or something like that. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about them because I just really like them. They're funny, they're interesting, and they're part of the reason that I got into history in the first place. I think that history is interesting, and it's because of the stories that my grandpa used to tell us, and still does tell us when we go and visit him at the frontier in Raymond on occasion. Yeah, so that's gonna be the next story. I am looking into it right now again to see if there is any information regarding the Clampers and Palisade. I did find one plaque from the Elko chapter. It's titled Eureka and Palisade Railroad. And the plaque reads, the E&P was completed in 1875, serving the booming mining camps of Mineral Hill, Eureka, and Hamilton. Millions of dollars in ore were shipped north to the Palisade and transferred to the main line, returning with machinery and supplies for the towns and mines. Declining mining around Eureka in the late 1800s started the fall of the E&P in the first 3 decades of the 1900s. The E&P survived floods, fire, and economic declines, both in Palisades and Eureka. In 1938, with Palisade being a ghost town, the E&P made its last run. And the plaque was dedicated June, I believe it says 13th, 1992. And it's dedicated to Lucinda J. Saunders, and it was the chapter 1881 of E. Clampus Vitus. So they do actually seem to have a plaque there, which is cool. I love finding those plaques because it just gives me another story to talk to my grandfather about. I'm just going to let y'all know that the Clampers will be my next topic. I'm very excited to talk about them. It might be a long video, it might be a short video, it might be a short video with many parts, including maybe interviews with my grandfather. It might be a long video with many parts, including interviews with my grandfather. But I will also, in that video, I will include pictures of monuments that they've put up, a lot of which, the ones that I'll be posting, are from around this area, because I'm proud of them, because most of the ones up here, my grandfather actually etched the granite for them. So I'm excited to be able to show those because my grandpa's super cool. So yeah, I'm really excited for the episode. And if you watch this and you're local, you might be too. And also, if you watch this and you're local, go to the bar and see my grandpa and tell him that I love him. But yeah, so that was Palisade, Nevada. And see you next time. I'm going to add pictures of Palisade and the railroads and stuff to the end of this video, just so you guys can see it. So, bye!